Hello, Sam's fans. Welcome again. Wednesday at 3 p.m., usually we have Facebook Live, and we bring in people to talk about music therapy, art therapy, Sam's fans related stuff. And it's always really interesting and fun to hear what our guests have to say. And it's also fun to see what you all have for questions and comments. And for today, we have Gina, and I forgot to ask how you say your last name.
It's Roell.
Roell. And
Uh-huh.
she is the art therapist over at Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center, and she's joining us today to talk about art therapy, what she does, what art therapy looks like at Cincinnati Children's. And so, thank you for joining us. It's really good to have you here.
Well, thank you very much.
So why don't we just start with you telling us a bit of what your position is over at Cincinnati and what you do over there?
Okay. I am the art therapist here at Cincinnati Children's. I work with two very different populations. A lot of my time I spend with our residential psych program, and then I also, one day a week, I get to go over to our main campus, our medical campus, and work with kids with bone marrow transplants. So I could just be on that unit for a day. And very different types of art therapy, but art therapy nonetheless.
Definitely. And the one day that you go to the hospital, that's sort of the day that we sponsor, right?
Yes.
Cool.
That is been a joy the past 3 years.
Awesome. That's great. Now, can we maybe also go back a bit and tell us a bit about where you trained and where you're from and how you got into art therapy?
I got my degree from Ursuline College, which is in Pepper Pike, Ohio, near Cleveland. They have a wonderful art therapy program up there. And my road to actually getting this position was long, but each piece of it, I think, prepared me for what I do here. I taught art at an elementary school for 2 years, and then I realized that I love teaching, but the therapy part was missing. So then I found a job as more like a case manager, where I got to do a little bit more therapy, but not art. I just yearning for that chance to combine my passion. And then finally, it was, almost 13 years ago that I found the job here at Children's, and that I was able to actually put my degree to use and found my calling in art therapy.
That's awesome. That's great. Also, quick reminder to people watching. So for art therapy, you need to get a master's degree, right? And for music therapist, bachelor. So like Ursuline, that was your master's that you got there.
Master's program. Yeah. Yes.
Gotcha. Now, also, so we've talked about art therapy here at Facebook Live, so we don't really have to go too much into the definition, but can you maybe just give us a quick reminder or the definition that you like for art therapy?
Yeah, I guess it's really it's based on the therapeutic relationship using art. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, since you know a little bit about what we do, the main focus is on that therapeutic relationship, but using the art as the means of communication. Whether you're working on self-esteem, sensory, motor, cognitive, whatever you're working on, you're using art as that modality. Mm-hmm. But you're using both that relationship and the art to work together. I don't know.
Definitely. Now, so, I know a bit more about music therapy, but for art therapy, is there something specific or different about it being in a hospital setting as opposed to like in a private practice or something?
I don't know exactly how it would look different, other than the fact that we have to. So I always have to be cognizant of what the rules, the policies of the hospital and of my population. My time with the kids at our medical side of the campus, I've really got to be aware of the infection control and what can I bring in their rooms and what can I not bring in their rooms, and what do I have to leave there, because once it's in there, and I don't want it to be contaminated with anybody else's or from the outside in. Once it's there, it's got to stay there. I've got to be really aware of all that infection control, which is something I would think that an outside practice doesn't have to worry about as much. And is over here where I'm at today in psych, I've got to be aware of sharps and just be aware, constantly aware of the materials that you bring, because you want to bring that best experience to the kids. But also be aware of all the safety involved, whatever, wherever you are. I don't know. Yeah. That would probably be like one of the main differences. I've never worked in a private practice, so
right. Yeah, but I was thinking about that. Yeah, I was thinking like maybe infections and that sort of thing that you will have to be careful. Does that also prevent you from doing certain interventions, or like what kind of interventions can you do, like when a kid is home, like bed bound, or in these situations?
So I can do pretty much, I don't want to say anything, but as long as I had the right materials, I mean, I can get a special kind of clay and paint, as long as that I'm aware of. If with paint, if I'll just bring them in little containers, or I just have to make different accommodations for each kid that I see. I just have to be aware of what are they allowed to have, what are they not. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I'm guessing, you come into the hospital and then you visit this patient like room to room. And then when you come into the room, first you ask them like, do you want to do some art, or like, how are you feeling today? And what's usually the response that you get from?
It depends on the day. I can just this week I can give a little picture of a couple different things that happen. Some of the kids, like one kid that I had been seeing for a while, he had just gotten his chemo, and this week he wasn't feeling well. And a kid that normally is so excited and ready to do some art, this week wasn't his week. But that's kind of the great thing about art therapy, is that it's something that they have the power to choose. Like, today is not my day, and it's okay. So I gave him that space. He knows I'll be back there next week. And he said, yep, next week I'll be ready. But the same day, another kid, I had never met her. For the very first time, I went in and said, hey, you like to do art? And her face lit up like the sky, and she was ready. So, I mean, it depends, but I love that I get to offer them a choice, which is something they don't get in the hospital very often. So even in those kids that say, no, not today, we're still doing something good for them by giving them the power to, you know what, I get to say no. I get to make a choice. Right,
definitely. Now, also another question that I actually just thought about is, so you come into the room and you're talking about, art, and if they want to participate, do you also like explain what art therapy is, maybe to the parents, or how does that work?
So usually that happens pretty organically as we're working. It's not something I go and say, hey, this is what art therapy is. When I'm just getting to know the patient, it's our first interaction is more of a, hey, what do you like to do? Let me get to know what kind of materials, what is your skill set? What is your likes, dislikes? And in that interaction is where I get the idea of, can explain a little bit about what art therapy is. Just kind of happens pretty organically.
Right. Awesome. Now, also, you were talking about about art mediums and the different things that you can do, is there like something specifically that you just love doing? Or
I mean, when I saw that question before, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's art. I love everything. But what really gets me excited is when I find that medium for that kid at that time. And what works with one kid one day might not be the same thing that works the next day. But when it can be any medium, but when you find that thing that just really speaks to that kid, that's just that's an art therapist's dream.
Awesome. Yeah, that's interesting.
There is no one.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm also like thinking, you know, I'm a musician and studying music therapy, and I'm thinking like, well, I personally like to play, I don't know, jazz, or I like to play this kind of music, but I know I can play all kinds of music, and with the patient, it's more about what they want to play, what they like.
Right.
So I think, you know, maybe in art therapy is the same, but like obviously when the kid is enjoying it, that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. I mean, I love to paint, but if I have a kid that I don't want to get messy, no paint for me, but they find out that collage is their medium, and when they find like that speaks to them, then that gets me so excited. I'm like, oh, maybe I like collage today. I don't know, but it's whatever works for that kid. That's what really makes it worthwhile, makes it why you do
great.
it.
For sure. Awesome. Now, so when you're doing these art therapy interventions, also how much of like verbal interaction is there? Like, are you asking them how they're feeling and that sort of thing?
And no, not those same words, but I'll ask them if it's appropriate to tell me about what they're drawing as they're working. Like, oh, what is this that you've got over here? What's going on with this yellow bit, or whatever makes sense for that. But just to kind of give it a feeling of what is your kind of view of your own drawing, painting, whatever you're working on. And then I can maybe it can lead to further conversations. Oh, wow, that yellow bit is that's that frustration that you're feeling with whatever's going on with you. Oh, tell me more about that. And I don't know, the art can lead to further conversations.
Right. And I'm guessing it also would be kind of a different balance at the hospital and at the psychiatric hospital population, right?
Yes. At the main hospital, I get to do all individual. Obviously, I go room to room. And in psych, I work in mostly groups. So that's a whole different dynamic. You've got my questions aren't so individualized, but the kids over here are more working on their social interactions and how they interact together. So just depending on the child is. I'm sorry to be so general and vague, but it's so. Art therapy is so specific to each child, meeting them where they are at that particular time.
Yeah, definitely. No, and I think it's also valuable to learn this and to understand this also for, you know, anybody watching. So I think it's the same with art therapy and music therapy, that it really looks different depending on the population and on the kid and on the needs. And even for us that we're really focused on children in the hospitals, you know, mainly, but like that's even just part of it, right? Because then you get to these different populations that we're not even talking about. Now, I also wanted to just ask more specifically about Cincinnati. So you said you've been there for how many years?
Almost 13.
13. Okay, now, but you've been mainly at psych.
Yes, it was just a little over 3 years ago that I started at the main campus, just because of Sam's fans.
Right. Awesome. And are you the only art therapist?
Not anymore. We did about a year and a half ago, we hired another art therapist, and she works with our Starshine population, which is our hospice.
Okay.
She goes from home to home.
Oh, nice. So is she full-time or?
No, she's part-time as well.
Okay, so and then you go for one day to the hospital, and I also wanted to ask, like, so it's evolved a bit, but then what's ahead? Do you think that more art therapy? I know you're gonna say yes, but just so people here, do you think there's more art therapy needed at the hospital?
Oh my goodness, I can't tell you the difference that even the addition of the first 3 years from Sam's Fans, I was there for 4 hours. Just this past year, I was able to be there. I'm now able to be there for 8 hours. That even that extra 4 hours, it's amazing what the difference it's made. The amount of kids, the quality that I've been able to spend with each kid. It just, and I'm just thinking that I'm only on the one unit, and the hospital is huge. But just, oh my goodness, the difference in that 8 hours versus the 4. The first week, it tripled the amount of kids I got to see.
Nice.
It was awesome.
Right.
And I mean, I get to, if a kid says in the morning, I'm tired today. I'm tired this morning. Can you come back? Yes, I can. I can come back. It's wonderful.
Yeah, that's really great to hear that, you're able to see more kids now. But I think definitely there's so much that there's still needed. And I think that's also a call for us at Sam's Fans and for our supporters to like really keep rallying for this. Art therapy, music therapy at Children's Hospital is really so needed. I think.
Oh gosh, we appreciate so much.
Definitely. So that's kind of the culture. Anybody watching, let's get more art therapy into the hospitals. But then I also wanted to just kind of step back a bit and ask you. We had this campaign last year for Giving Tuesday, and I was just curious, and also maybe people watching are curious. Like, did you get something? What did you get? What have you been doing with that?
Yes. So thank you very much to anybody who's watching, and thank you to Sam's Fans. So it was so generous, and just before when I was talking about the infection control, one thing that Sam's Fans did is, I know it sounds little, but it, like, all the canvases, all the individual art supplies that I am able to leave with them, and just to bring that joy that just a box, not necessarily a box of crayons, but a canvas that's better than it makes them feel like an artist when you get a canvas. But I get to leave that and bring that, and you need an extra one so that you can do this with your dad later. Yes, you can. But a big thing that Sam's Fans donated was it's called a Cricut. It's a cutting machine.
Okay.
So you asked about a story too, and one of the story kind of goes with this. It's kind of a fun. I have a teenage client or patient at Cincinnati Children's. He wanted to do art, but he wasn't sure. So, I've got this computer program that you can design. Like, he was interested in making a T-shirt. I'm like, oh wait, I've got this thing that you can design it, you can make it. And so he showed his strength and how he's going to kick cancer's butt by making his own T-shirt design using the Cricut. So that's one thing that we used a little bit of a story with it.
Right.
I also, with a kid with this Cricut, made, he wanted to make his own rock band T-shirt. He designed his own. He was working with a music therapist, and she had mentioned, like, he thinks he wants to start this rock band. He's got a name and everything. I'm like, oh, I need to go see this kid.
Right.
So he designed his own rock band T-shirt.
Oh, wow, that's so cool.
just some fun things that we're so appreciative of.
Definitely. I didn't even know about this. There were so many supplies, 350, and this cricket thing, I didn't even notice it. So is it, you make the design in a computer, right? And then the cricket prints it, or?
It's a cutting machine, so you can print it if you want to print it, but I can bring iron. I talked about the T-shirts. Mm-hmm. I can bring on some iron-on things, and it cuts out the iron-on, and I iron it on any T-shirt. It can make. You can make anything on with a vinyl decal. The same kid that wanted to do the T-shirt around Christmas time, he wanted to do some ornaments, like personalize some ornaments.
Yeah.
We didn't get a chance to do that. We did the T-shirt instead.
Right.
But something that we could have done.
Right. That's so cool. Yeah. Awesome. And I think, definitely it's something that I'm sure you need constantly, obviously if you're leaving these canvases with kids and all these things, there's always the need for more. And I think, that's part of our mission, keep fundraising and keep supplying the hospitals with these things as much as we can. But now that we're in sort of the story time, I was wondering, do you maybe have one more?
Sure. I kind of touched on this little girl I met for the first time this week. Mm-hmm. She had been in the hospital, and this is another reason I'm so appreciative of the extra 8 hours, because she said, why haven't I seen you before? Mm-hmm. We love art. Why haven't I seen you? I'm so sorry. I'm so glad I get to see you now, but now I get to be here longer, so I get to see more kids. Mm-hmm. And oh gosh, her face lit up. Yes, come on in. Let's do some art. So I brought in some painting to her. This was my first session, so it's just a get to know you kind of a session. Her parents were both in the room. She said, I want to paint a monkey today. So at first, the dad was like, oh, let's why don't you paint it for? Yeah, no. I took her step by step how, and she did it all by herself. And oh my goodness, the look on her face, the pride that she felt in this painting that she created by herself, and then the pride in the parents looking and like, wow, she really did do this. Amazing. I mean, it was this very first session was, you could just feel the joy in the room. Right. So we're talking and educating them about art therapy and what we do, what I do, and I'm looking forward to the next time I get to spend time with her. Mm-hmm. But as I'm leaving, she is not just saying thank you. She is, you could read it in her eyes, her voice, and she must have said thank you, screamed thank you 15 times for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you felt that thanks, and that thank you for being here with me and bringing me this modality that helps me communicate and speak and experience joy.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. And we actually just published our annual report, and our theme is the power of music and art therapy. And I think just listening to these stories, I'm lucky, and I get to listen to these stories every week from our guests, music and art therapists, and it just really, I can see it, how music and art therapy are making a difference. And I think that's just great. That's awesome.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and that's, definitely thank you to our SAMS fans. They really go above and beyond in helping us fundraise and come into our events and just everything. So it's really great. So if anybody is watching, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them. We'll be kind of finishing here soon, but Nikki's mom usually connects and watches. So if you're there, Patty, hi. She's kind of our most regular guest attendee, if you will. But yeah, I don't know if you have anything else that you wanted to say about art therapy or about Cincinnati that we've missed.
I can't think of anything else I need to add. Thank you for having this, and that's wonderful. And we just so appreciate everything that Sam's Fans has done for art therapy here at Cincinnati Children's. I mean, you put somebody in on the medical side. That's something that wasn't there that needs to be there.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And you know, I've come into Sam's Fans recently, so I wasn't even there. So I think definitely the thanks goes to like Nikki and to the supporters who have been there for like years, you know.
Yes.
But yeah, and again, thank you for joining today for Facebook Live. I had actually not talked to you before, I believe. It's the first time. So this is good. I definitely learned a lot about art therapy and about Cincinnati and you. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
And so yes, and if you're watching, make sure that every week about this time, 3 p.m., we connect on Facebook Live. Next week, we have Sarah Bentley again, who is a music therapist at Nationwide Children's, and we'll be talking about music therapy in hematology oncology. So that's in population, and yeah, it'll be fun. So again, thank you for tuning in and for watching, and thank you for joining me, Gina.
Thank you.
Okay. Till next week then.